Hey, Bears fans! Today we're diving deep into everything happening with our Chicago Bears, from the latest moves on the roster to the potential free agent additions that could shape the second half of the season. We've seen the trade deadline come and go, and while some are hoping for blockbuster moves, the reality is the Bears have opted for caution, avoiding overpaying for players in positions of need. For instance, the discussions around Max Crosby or Trey Hendrickson drew interest from other teams, but ultimately, the Bears stood firm and did not part with first-round assets for players who, while talented, would have required giving up more than what felt reasonable for the team's long-term vision. The conversation around Jermaine Johnson was similar. Reports suggested the Bears were willing to offer a third-round pick, whereas other teams were seeking a second. That might have been frustrating for fans watching from the outside, but from a roster management perspective, it shows a level of discipline that can pay dividends in the long run. Overpaying for a one-year impact player rarely works out in the NFL, and the Bears seem to have internalized that lesson. On the defensive side, there is still interest in adding depth, particularly at cornerback. Asani Samuel Jr. recently cleared his medical evaluations and could start visiting teams immediately. For the Bears, bringing in a player like Samuel for a workout and a medical check makes sense. If he passes both, he could be a meaningful competitor for starting reps outside, pushing Nan right and others, or at the very least providing valuable depth. His addition wouldn't just be about filling a roster spot. It could potentially be an upgrade in a unit that has seen its share of injuries and inconsistency. The Bears have to weigh the benefits of adding someone like Samuel against long-term roster flexibility, but there's definitely reason to be intrigued by what he might bring to the field. Meanwhile, the conversation around the edge rushers remains a pressing topic. Fans have expressed frustration about the lack of immediate reinforcements at this position, but the reality is that the pool of available players is limited and the prices for the top-tier options were steep. While adding a player like Jermaine Johnson might have been tempting, giving up a second-round pick would have been an overpayment, especially when considering the risk of the player not panning out or not fitting seamlessly into Dennis Allen's scheme. That said, there are still intriguing options available in free agency and among practice squad players, including veterans like DeMarcus Walker, who could provide immediate contributions. Walker has the flexibility to play both inside and outside and could be a valuable depth piece if brought in at the right cost. Even players like Austin Booker, who may not have the same profile as a first-round edge rusher, could end up providing more pass-rushing impact than expected while still contributing as rotational players. Looking at the roster from a broader perspective, the Bears' draft class and offseason moves have created a mixed bag of outcomes. The offensive line moves this year were solid, adding stability where it was desperately needed. On the defensive line, the results are less clear, with some rookies showing flashes but others yet to make a significant impact. Players like Carlson Loveland appear to be turning a corner, and late-round selections like Kyle Manungi could develop into solid contributors over time. The jury is still out on second-round picks, such as Aussie Trillo and Shabon Turner, and certain acquisitions like Ruben Hiplight haven't contributed on the field yet. Overall, the draft and offseason grades might land somewhere in the C range, but these evaluations are still early, and the full impact of these moves might not be realized until later in the season. The key takeaway is that while the team isn't flawless, there is a framework in place that allows for growth, and the potential for players to step up in the second half of the season is still very real. In terms of division competition, the Bears face an uphill climb. Winning the division without a consistent pass rush is a tall order, and the team's performance in key matchups against rivals like the Lions, Packers, and Vikings will likely determine playoff positioning. Even if Jermaine Johnson or another edge player were added, the difference may not be enough to vault the team ahead of Detroit or Green Bay, who currently hold the edge in the standings. That said, there are opportunities to make noise, particularly in games where home field advantage and preparation can tilt outcomes unexpectedly. Fans have to temper expectations while remaining hopeful, as the Bears still control parts of their destiny if they can capitalize on favorable matchups and keep the team healthy. Depth remains an ongoing conversation, particularly in key positions where injuries have been frequent. Kyler Gordon's potential return could reshape defensive backfield rotations, presenting coaches with choices on whether to start him on the outside or mix in three safety looks alongside Nan Wright and other contributors. These scenarios create a positive challenge, as having multiple capable players provides flexibility and the ability to adjust strategies week to week. The team's depth, combined with smart additions in free agency, could be a deciding factor as the Bears push toward the latter half of the season. Similarly, special teams have sparked debate, particularly around the kicking position. Options like Joe Tryon-Chewinka taking over for spots vacated by injuries, or the strategic management of kickers like Cairo Santos versus Jake Moody highlight the nuanced roster decisions that can influence game outcomes. Looking at the edge players available in next year's draft, several names are already generating buzz, including Ruben Bain from Miami, Arl Reese from Ohio State, and Kelrick Falk from Auburn. These players, among others, present potential solutions to the edge depth issues the Bears have faced this season. Teams that scout and position themselves well in the draft could find impact players capable of stepping in immediately, providing both talent and long-term value. With the right selections, coupled with smart free agent pickups, the Bears could address multiple needs without having to make rash trades or overcommit draft capital, balancing immediate competitiveness with sustained roster growth. Even though the trade deadline has passed, the Bears season is far from over. Free agency and roster management remain important, with opportunities to tweak the roster, explore practice squad talent, and add depth where it counts. Players returning from injury, strategic acquisitions, and performance improvement from rookies and mid-round selections could shift the trajectory of the season. With 6 wins and 3 losses, the Bears are in a strong position to make a playoff push if they capitalize on upcoming matchups. The next few weeks will be critical, and fans should remain engaged as the coaching staff evaluates options, manages the roster, and makes decisions that could define the second half of the season. Every game, every snap, and every roster move could make the difference between a playoff berth and another year of building. As we move deeper into the season, the conversation around the Bears roster continues to evolve, and fans are rightfully focused on how the team can improve its defense, particularly on the edges and in the secondary. Injuries have played a major role in shaping opportunities and challenges, and the coaching staff has had to constantly adapt. Players like Nan Wright and Shanna Gardner-Johnson have stepped up when called upon, but the return of Kyler Gordon could shift how the defensive backfield is structured. Gordon's ability to play on the outside opens up the possibility of using Gardner-Johnson in multiple roles, including at safety, which could create versatile looks that confuse opposing quarterbacks and give the Bears a tactical edge. With multiple talented players in these key positions, Dennis Allen and his staff have more options to implement creative defensive schemes, and that flexibility could become a decisive factor in tight games down the stretch. The edge rush position remains under scrutiny, and understandably so. Teams that have a dominant pass rush often control the tempo of games and force mistakes from opposing quarterbacks. The Bears currently have a rotation that includes Montez Sweat, Austin Booker, Daniel Hardy, and Joe Tryon-Chewinka, each with varying strengths and weaknesses. While none of these players may be a game-changing force individually, collectively, they provide a foundation that can be built upon. Bringing in veterans like DeMarcus Walker on a short-term deal could add experience and depth, particularly as the team navigates the second half of the season. It's not just about having the star player on the edge, but having reliable contributors who can execute in rotation, maintain energy, and stay healthy through the grueling stretch of games ahead. Free agency also remains a potential avenue for improvement. Players like Asante Samuel Jr., who have been medically cleared, provide an opportunity for the Bears to inject talent and competition into the roster without overcommitting resources. Adding a player like Samuel could create healthy competition for starting roles, push younger players to perform at a higher level, and provide the coaching staff with more flexibility in defensive schemes. Even if Samuel does not immediately become a starter, his presence adds depth and insurance against future injuries, which is vital in the long NFL season. The Bears' approach to these opportunities will be a delicate balance between short-term gains and long-term roster stability. Looking at the team's performance so far, It's clear that certain areas have exceeded expectations while others remain in need of improvement. The offensive line, for instance, has provided stability and allowed the team to execute its game plan effectively, while the defensive line and pass rush have experienced inconsistency. Draft picks like Carlson Loveland and Kyle Manungi are showing signs of development, and there's hope that mid to late round selections will continue to grow into contributors who can impact games immediately or in future seasons. Evaluating the draft class as a whole, it's clear that the Bears have a mix of hits and developmental projects. While the overall grade may sit in the average range for now, the potential upside is significant, particularly if the coaching staff can maximize each player's strengths and accelerate their growth within the system. Special teams and kicking also remain topics of discussion. Decisions around kickers like Cairo Santos and Jake Moody reflect the broader theme of roster management and strategic decision-making. Whether the team chooses to activate a kicker from the practice squad, manage injuries creatively, or make mid-season adjustments, each move carries implications for game outcomes. In close contests, these seemingly minor decisions can be the difference between a win and a loss, and the Bears' ability to navigate these choices effectively will contribute to their overall success. Looking ahead, the schedule presents both challenges and opportunities. Games against division rivals such as Detroit, Green Bay, and Minnesota will likely determine playoff positioning, and the Bears must approach these matchups with both strategic planning and consistent execution. Winning critical home games, protecting key players from injuries, and making the most of roster depth will be essential as the team pursues a postseason berth. There's still a path to the playoffs, and with 6 wins and 3 losses, the Bears have positioned themselves within striking distance. A win against the Giants this week could further solidify their standing and provide momentum heading into the second half of the season. Off-season and draft consideration for the following year are also on the horizon, particularly with respect to edge rushers. Prospects like Ruben Bain, Arl Reese, and Kelrick Falk are already generating attention, and scouting and evaluating these players early can give the Bears an advantage in preparing for the next draft. Beyond the top prospects, other emerging players, including David Bailey and Romulo Height, offer additional options for building a deep and talented roster. By combining strategic drafting with judicious free agent acquisitions, the Bears can continue to improve both in the present season and for future campaigns, balancing immediate competitiveness with sustainable growth. The key for the Bears moving forward is balance. Maintaining discipline in roster decisions, investing in players who offer long-term value, and making smart adjustments as injuries and opportunities arise will be critical. While the trade deadline may have passed without blockbuster additions, the team still has the ability to improve incrementally through free agency, strategic practice squad signings, and careful management of returning players from injury. Fans should remain engaged, as every decision, every acquisition, and every development has the potential to shape the team's trajectory. The second half of the season is an opportunity to solidify the roster, fine-tune strategies, and give the Bears a realistic shot at making a meaningful run in the playoffs. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Chicago Bears. And don't be shy. Drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Whispers are swirling through the NFL world as newly surfaced images appear to expose a sensitive situation involving the Green Bay Packers, sending shockwaves straight to the heart of the NFC North. Sources close to the league claim the photos, recently leaked online, reveal an internal team strategy meeting that many believe could compromise the Packers' competitive edge. While details remain scarce, insiders suggest the images show coaches and players discussing formations and play calls in ways that, if accurate, could be considered highly sensitive. Chicago Bears officials are reportedly not taking the matter lightly. According to several anonymous sources, the Bears have submitted an official complaint to the NFL, urging the league to investigate whether the leak constitutes a breach of fair play. The Bears front office is said to be particularly concerned about the potential advantage such exposure might give opposing teams in upcoming matchups. It's not just about a photo or two. One source familiar with the Bears' operations told our reporters. This could impact preparation, trust, and the integrity of competition. Meanwhile, social media has erupted with speculation, memes, and heated debates. Fans of both teams are weighing in, with Packers supporters defending the team and asserting that the images are being blown out of proportion, while Bears fans are calling for swift action from the league. Analysts point out that the timing is delicate, with both teams fighting for playoff positioning and every advantage or disadvantage magnified under the national spotlight. The NFL has yet to comment officially on the complaint, though insiders hint that league officials are reviewing the images and interviewing staff members to assess the situation. Some speculate that fines, penalties, or even internal sanctions could be on the table if the league deems the leak to be a serious infraction. For now, the story remains in flux, feeding what has become one of the most talked about controversies of the season. As the NFC North prepares for another heated series of matchups, the rumor mill shows no signs of slowing. Whether this incident will impact on-field results or fade as another fleeting scandal remains to be seen, but one thing is certain. The Packers and Bears are at the center of the league's latest storm. Fans and pundits alike will be watching closely, waiting to see how the league responds and whether this exposure could reshape the rivalry for years to come. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Chicago Bears, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.